Did the markets know that there would be an assassination attempt on Trump before it happened? I want to look at that in the charts today, along with Bitcoin breaking out, potentially getting us through the TIA trend reversal signal that we brought to you in March, and what that means to the markets in the coming 1 to 2 months. Along with that, we're going to look at altcoins. How are they faring? Are they getting stronger or weaker? In addition to updating Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, we're going to look at the 18.6-year cycle and how this is all playing out yet again, repeating the cycle almost to a T. Don't go anywhere. It's your home of macro cycle analysis covering Bitcoin, cryptos, the stock markets, and of course the real estate cycle. It's all here on the channel, so it's your one-stop shop. Subscribe, hit that like button. Let's go for 3,000 likes today on the video. And if you do want to find out more, there is a link in the top of the video description for TIA Premium, trading, investing, short-term, long-term, get it all there. We'll dive into that in further detail throughout the video. But let's kick it off with, of course, the headlines of where the news is at right now. The Donald Trump attempted assassination. Forgive me if I call it the assassination. Trying to fit all that into one mouthpiece is quite a lot there. Anyway, everyone should have heard of this by now. And I guess what they are calling this for Bitcoin at the moment with the move up is potentially the Trump pump. Now, in terms of the chart and what I said in the intro, how did the market know about this before it happened? What I'm referring to here is the trend. The short-term trend was up before the assassination. Now, well, the attempted assassination. I stand corrected. Now, in terms of the trend, the news when it broke out continued the trend. And so if you're aware of these things in the charts, watching the trend, you can see how this happens time and time again. So I guess it's a little bit disingenuous to say that the market knew exactly that there was going to be an attempted assassination. However, in terms of what was happening in the chart at the time, there was already an uptrend forming, and this particular news has amplified that trend. Now we can see that there was a breakout in terms of the downtrend, or the diagonal downtrend here for BTC, and it happened around this period in the last 24 hours, breaking out of that significant downtrend. And so we don't want to play the curve fitting game here, as I suggested on X, where you would just adjust this line to meet your expectations. That's not what we do here. You want to use exact measuring points so that you can measure this any other time it happens in the market. Meaning you want to see a breakout at these exact levels, not trying to curve fit this to meet your expectation. At the end of the day, the market is always right, and it's telling us something, hopefully, in advance. So we've had the Trump news. We've got the market, in this case, Bitcoin, moving from that low on the 5th of July to the current peak there of roughly 17% move, a $9,000 move from that low. And in terms of the bullish signs here, you've got a break above that diagonal, a break, clean break for now, above that low from the 24th of June, which was very significant, the $58,500 low. And for a slightly longer term time frame, we've got a weekly close above both of the significant lows that came in. You've got the low on the 1st of May, that was at 56.5. Then you had the low at 58.5. Then you had last week crash down to 53.5. And then the current week that just went basically wiped out all of those losses and closed above those two significant levels, the 56.5 and the 58.5. And for this new week, it is now breaking above the downtrend there. So could this be a V-shaped recovery? Of course, that's what the major bulls would want to see. If it were to be a V-shaped recovery, this is working out perfectly with our signal that we came to you with in March of 2024, at the time when everyone else, almost everyone else, was extremely hysterical about the price of Bitcoin going to 80 or 100 grand, telling us a few days later that the low was in and that it was time to buy the dip, all sorts of things there, right? But now here we are, and I think, based on my analysis, which I guess is why you're here, that it looks like we are turning the corner finally out of some sort of significant low. This was also a significant low. Yes, price went slightly lower. So even if that happens again, you've still got the 50% level down here at roughly $49,000 going from this low to this high here. So there's plenty of room still for any sort of support, but it seems like we've got for the first break into the next level after this whole news starts to settle down. There is our very important 50% level from this top to the low at 62,700. You can see the price as I record this is currently at 62,500. Now, what this also does to Bitcoin price, the pattern, and in terms of the longer term trends here, I'm looking at the monthly now. If Bitcoin over the next half of this month in July, right? If Bitcoin's able to close above the open is at 62,000, call it 700, that is going to turn July green, and you're going to see some of that previous resistance potentially become support and possibly get a nice reversal bar happening on a monthly candle or bar. So if you had it on the candles, you guys know what that particular candle is. That's a nice reversal pattern, a reversal candle, especially from a long downtrend. And that is 4 months within the cycle that is currently 20 months old. So about 20% of the time, it has been going down. So if you get a nice reversal there over the coming 16, 17 days, that is going to be another strong sign that 53.5 was most likely the low for this particular correction. So that leads on to the next stage of the cycle, everything that we've been covering here on the channel, looking at that fifth wave that Michael also covers on his channel. Link to his channel is in the video description. Looking at Elliott wave here and the fourth wave potentially coming to an end with that low about 10 days ago. And now, of course, this Trump news has amplified the move out of that low, which is a good sign for the trend. Leaving politics aside, leaving any of that other stuff aside, we just want to focus on the charts and making money, because of course I can't make money from the headlines and discussing politics with some anonymous person online. I'm only going to make money from the price chart. So hopefully you're more interested in that than discussing politics online with some fool. So in terms of wave 5, because if that is wave 4, the bottom of wave 4, we are potentially heading into wave 5. Wave 5 is one of the biggest and strongest trends. It doesn't have to be, but in commodities, it can be one of the strongest trends to the upside. Now, that's not going to happen in a straight line and we go to $200,000 BTC or 100,000, but it will probably happen in many moves to the upside, corrections, nice strong move, correction, another strong move, and probably the end. The end will likely come at a time when everyone is extremely bullish of the price again, like they were in March of 2024. So hopefully you were around in March 2024, so you can now have an understanding of what stupidity is like at a peak. That top, we know it as the Drake top. Drake posted on Instagram a story about Michael Saylor and Bitcoin that Michael Saylor is buying with MicroStrategies. Who, out of Drake's 180 million, and I'm getting the Italian handout here, out of his 180 million followers of teenage girls and boys, who the hell cares what Michael Saylor is doing? That's a very clear signal of a peak, or at least around a peak. It's a clear signal of a time that you don't want to be getting even greedier in the market. It's a time where you probably want to be taking some profits, and this is precisely what we've been talking about now for quite some time. So this was March 17th when the signal came out that the market was going to dump, and I looked at median timeframes, I looked at shortest timeframes of how long can this dump go on for? Longer than the majority had anticipated. Exactly what happened there. Now, this is what you have to do next. What we have to do next. What I think is going to happen next is, of course, a significant move in the bull market, and we got to hold on for this ride. I think it's going to get crazy, and there's going to be many things that we have to do throughout that period to protect the profits and hopefully make more of those profits. So I'm going to come back to this in just a moment. We've got the total cryptocurrency market cap and altcoins to get through, but I do want to recap on the news and where we're going in this 18-year cycle. Now, another interesting point to note about this cycle, because at the end of the day, for any more of this money to come into Bitcoin and cryptos, you're going to need to see, it has to happen. So if you're not following the real estate cycle, if you're not following stock market cycle, if you're not following, I don't know, what I'm talking about or Michael's talking about and doing your own research on it, then I think you're going to miss what's coming next, because this is where the majority of the money is. The majority of the money in the world is in real estate, and next it's in the stock markets. Bitcoin and crypto are somewhere down that list. You need to see the buckets fill up elsewhere. People get excited and they start to take some of those gains from those buckets out and they put it into littler buckets to try and make bigger gains. It's just what happens when the cycle continues on, when you start to get this big pump into the winner's curse. It happens every 18 to 20-ish years like clockwork. There are exceptions to it. We can talk about that in future videos. This is over 200 years of data. So anyway, this is really, really interesting. Investment property, at least for Australia in the past 5 years, this has broken out to a new all-time high. So interest in searching for investment property, that happens at peaks. Remember, people search for Bitcoin at peaks. Now, because the cycle is much longer than a Bitcoin cycle, it's going to take longer. So just because it breaks out now doesn't mean it's at an all-time high and it's going to collapse this year. But if you look at it in terms of a percentage, going back to the low to potentially wherever this peak is in a couple of years' time, these last couple of years are a very small percentage of the roughly 14 years. Okay, maybe it's 10 to 15% of the entire time. That makes sense when you look at longer term cycles. So interesting one here, good one to keep a track of to see if this continues up with the investment property search term here. I suggest doing it for your own country, wherever you guys might be. Check it out and see if it applies to your specific region, say the US, UK, Canada, etc. Okay, so we're in this winner's curse phase. Interesting point there. We're also seeing in the US the home builders ETF pump 13% in the last few days. So the low there at the 5th of July, and it is basically pumped out of that low, getting very close to a new all-time high again, meaning that investors are seeing more profits for home builders in the future. Remember, this is not the profits that they're looking at now. They're thinking there's going to be profits in the future, 6 to 12 months ahead, and it's showing up on the chart now because they're buying in anticipation of the profits. Interesting one to remember here. Okay, commodities, quick look here on gold. Before we get back to Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies, gold, 2,400 US. Again, it's probably going to break out yet again for the remainder of this cycle. It will have significant corrections along with the market as it has done in the past. But you can see here, I've got my line through the sand. I think it's unlikely that gold's going to revisit under $2,000 an ounce now. And it seems like it's consolidating again to try and break out as it has done since the mid-2010s. Okay, so 2015, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, COVID, higher low, and again, you can see a slight fake out here to the downside in 2022 when everyone thought there would be a recession and there wasn't, and higher low, so on and so forth. The consolidations and the breakouts are getting much, much quicker across the board, which is why I'm referring to this as the everything bubble. Into the winner's curse phase, you can see everything going up, and I don't think Bitcoin and cryptos are going to be any different. Quick look here just for the Aussies here, the 22% of you that are Australian, all-time high for Australia now. It finally joins the party with our American friends and our Japanese friends who are also at all-time highs on their stock market. Finally, it's happened for Australia. We got there on Friday and Monday has continued through. First time to 8,000 points on the ASX. And of course, the leading stocks are leading the charge, not the laggards, not the small junk that people hope for. The leaders are leading. If you're in Australia, you know the deal, banking, mining, etc. So it does not pay to be fearful in a bull market. I think we're all starting to get the understanding about that, where we cover the fear and greed index, which is also resetting. Essentially, you can see here from the stock market, basically it's been up. And where I could say that, let's call it I'm wrong. Okay, we've got to give it some sort of term. I'm wrong, where I think there's going to be seasonal corrections. We're not there just yet. We're in the middle of July. And in terms of a seasonal correction, the first half of July typically shows a nice move up and then a slight correction. Note the percentage change on the side here. That's 8, that's 10. So even if it reaches 10 and pulls back to 8, that's a 2% correction. And in terms of the days here, from the high to this low, you've already seen a 1.5% correction. So could it just grind out here for the rest of July? anything's possible. You know, it's done it before here from the 20th of June to the breakout there on the 3rd of July. Leading into this election here in November, anyone's guess, do we get this grind out to the side? I've talked about a potential consolidation or correction leading into these periods. The markets just keep going up. Maybe even though I'm extremely bullish, I'm not even bullish enough of how strong these markets are. So that might be my downfall, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being conservative as we continue to climb and just adding to the positions conservatively. The fifth wave. We are potentially here. It's very early stages. If this is the low, you can tell that it's very, very early stages because there could be a lot further to go from here. So we need to see a few more signs first. At least what we are seeing is the reset that we've talked about on the channel here, where you've got the 4-year cycle repeating, you've got the cryptos capitulating into this low, similar to what happened 4 years ago. Even just in the video I did on Saturday, major panic is setting in at the worst possible time. We had the worst possible panic, the fear, the extreme fear, basically around those lows and into the higher lows, which have now pushed the price higher. And seems like the sentiment is on the path to resetting here. Now it's at 52, which is basically neutral. In an ideal world, we would see the fear and greed index move similar to the first 15 or so months of this current bull market. Nice simple moves to the upside, corrections, and not really getting too far into the extreme greed or the greed itself. And when it does, it corrects so that we can have a longer lasting cycle. So that's what I'm looking for moving forward from here, just wiping out that extreme or that greed if it ever comes about. But we are into that final stage of the market. We are getting very close to that second half of the cycle, meaning into that right translated cycle. So again, something else that we discussed at length on the channel. While the majority, many in March were looking for a left translated cycle, meaning that this move to the upside was going to be short-lived and that we're going to see a long stretching out bear market because they thought that the economy was collapsing and the stock markets were collapsing in 2024. That has not been our view here on the channel. That's why I suggest subscribing to the channel, using the information here, doing your own research with it, and hopefully doing better than the majority of people out there who continue to look to short these markets when they're in a raging bull market. I hope you're starting to really see how that's been playing out over the last couple of years. So here we are, 20 months in from the low for BTC. And in terms of where the previous cycles were, we can do a nice quick measure. Low to 20 months takes you to that move there into that peak of August before a slight correction and then basically a charge on from that point. Is it going to happen exactly the same? Of course not. I think it's going to rhyme somewhat, where there might be another few months left until we start to really get the charge on. And that few months at this stage takes us somewhere towards the election. And what we have seen in every previous cycle, that the market pretty much pumps after the election or a month earlier. So again, a few months takes us to around October, elections in November. So somewhere around that Q4 is where I'm thinking you're going to see a lot more excitement come into the market. Now, if there is a lot more excitement into the market, where is the best place for your money? Of course, not financial advice, do your own research, all that sort of stuff. What I want to show you is strength and weakness on a chart, and there's nothing wrong with getting into positions and out of them if they don't look as strong as something else. That's all part of trading and investing. So let's have a look at where the total cryptocurrency market cap sits. This is everything, Bitcoin, cryptos, stable coins. Now it has moved up from the April low. So that was the low there. And then you had the slightly lower low here that just happened in July and a nice breakout to the upside. So in terms of the 50% level from that low to the high, it's 2.6 million at the top here, 2.6 trillion, sorry. It's coming very close to the 50% now. So it's going to be some points to really watch to see if this market can break above and close above, or if it gets a little rejection here, puts in a higher low, and then eventually breaks to the upside. So it's at a very important pivotal point on this chart. Now we take it back to the top, it's going to be 2.31. So either way, it's getting quite close to those levels. And at this stage, getting some closes above 2.31 going to be very, very good for the total cryptocurrency market cap. And of course, you want to be in the stronger stuff probably by this year. I wouldn't want to leave it too much longer. There are going to be altcoins that are going to pump after this stage. Of course, new stuff that comes out, stuff that people are excited about, but you probably don't want to be sitting in the laggards when the market is going hot. The laggards are going to move up. Your XRPs and all this sort of junk down the bottom here will move up. But if you're trying to make the most out of the market, you don't want to be in the laggards, just looking at probabilities. Just a slight adjustment with the axis on the side here. I've merged the two now so you can see the exact prices here. So we're still looking to the tops for a tipping point where basically the altcoin market could get a little more explosive. That's above around 630, 640 billion. So that's the top there that came in March. So far the bounce has been relatively good. And in terms of the time frame, the all-important time frame here, from the previous low, 19 months took us out to this section here. So this section, what happened there was basically a breakout of the accumulation and then a retest before the market went a little bit more ballistic. We're currently into this 19 months. In terms of the time frame to the major breakout, it was 23 months, and then to the 50% level was about 25 months. So basically just looking at this in terms of energy into the market. So roughly around that sort of 23 to 25, because even at the 19 where we currently sit, it was still within the holding pattern overall, but it was just starting to break out of the that first level there. So you can see this is where we currently sit when we compare to the previous cycle. This is the period where things get quite exciting, but I'd want to have my bags packed somewhere around here for that stage of the market. So this is where we currently are now. There's 19. Coming across to 23 months takes us to roughly November, and then 25 to 26 takes us out into Q1 of 2025. So there's the marker above here. That's the start of the quarter. So anywhere sort of in this period is where I think things are going to get very, very interesting for altcoins. Speaking of which, we'll start with one that may or may not be an altcoin. Here's Ethereum. It, over the last couple of days, has broken above the threatening versus safe level. So that was the previous consolidation. It dropped under it around 3,200, and in the last couple of days, broken above it. So it's currently sitting at 33. At the moment, in that safe zone, but ideally wants to be above the 50% level, and that is at 34.50. So looking for closes above 34.50 to basically continue on with this bull market for Ethereum, potentially outperforming Bitcoin for the rest of the bull market, roughly speaking, okay? And that's what you expect, or that's what you want your altcoins to do. It should be outpacing Bitcoin if you're going to take the risk in something other than BTC. Just like Solana, back to $152 after a couple of attempts of breaking down there at 120, hasn't done so. The emotional damage might be out of the system, but ideally you want to see it above around 155 to 165. Essentially, the insurance just means that you're waiting for further confirmation, but you're willing to pay the price of the asset or cryptocurrency that you're looking to get into is going higher to give you that confirmation. Otherwise, you try to buy the dip, and if it keeps dipping, you got to be strict and get out. Otherwise, you continue to catch a falling knife. So the emotional damage happens down here. The less emotional trades happen up here, and that goes for all of the cryptos. But we're going to look at some of the stronger stuff, and to find the stronger things, I think they should be above their 50% levels, and they should be consolidating, getting ready for some sort of move in this second half of 2024. Casper still holding above multiple 50% levels, short term and longer term. I don't mind if this thing corrects all the way down to 9 or 10 cents, as that's where the base is formed previously. But I would be getting worried if it broke down from around 5 cents, because that's essentially where the market had broken out on this run. So if it broke back under those levels, that's not a good sign for this next stage of the bull market. If in fact we get that altcoin season, you definitely want to be seeing your altcoins consolidate at higher prices so that they have that strength to go higher. They're higher for a reason. And just like they're lower for a reason. They're lower for a reason because not as many people are buying them, and there's probably something wrong with them in this stage of the cycle. I know a lot of people want to be buying shit that's low, but when you go back and test it, those typically don't get the same sort of returns. Broadly speaking, yeah, maybe you found the odd one, and that's great. But broadly speaking, if you do it enough times, you want to put the probabilities on your side and get to the stuff that is stronger. Render, we've been looking at this on the channel as well. Also looking not too bad, but not as strong as the others. It might take a little more time. About 6 months from the peak to the breakout. It's what happened last time in 2023. And the 6 months from the top to the breakout would set us somewhere around September, October. So again, Q4 of 2024. You definitely want to be seeing it above $7, ideally around at least $8. And then if this low holds, that would be the $10 mark for the 50% level. So the strength to come above that level. Meme coins, Pepe, still attempting to hold above 50%. So still looking like some sort of strength. You got this number here, roughly 1,057. That's your 50% on the shorter term mark. Ideally, you want to see some consolidation above there. Then we can worry about the other targets after that point. And on to the final one here, looking at the real world assets in the case of Ondo Finance, still holding above 50% and ideally above that sort of $1.20 throughout this next stage. I'd say Q3 into Q4. I wouldn't want to be seeing it break down to these lows back here at roughly 40 cents while the market is beginning to pick up. Okay, so in contrast to that, yeah, you had XRP have a nice little pop up here. But in contrast to that, it's basically been going down for a very, very long time. And yes, these junk coins will have pops. They have to have pops because we're in that stage of the cycle. But just how big is that pop to the upside going to be? That's what I'm gambling on here. That's what I'm betting on, that I want to get stuff that's going to pop bigger and harder. So that's a look at the markets after the weekend. Link in the top of the video description for our free crypto and economic report coming out tomorrow. So make sure you get on board with that. Otherwise, we've got also our free Ultimate Trader Accelerator. Register now for that using Bybit, Bluffin, or CoinCatch links down below. And I'll see you over in those groups there. Interesting times as I close out the video. Bitcoin attempting the 50% level at $62,700. Stay tuned to the channel, like it up. Let's go to 3,000 likes and I'll be back really, really soon with an update on how Bitcoin is progressing from this Trump pump. Thanks again, guys. Take care and peace out.